U.S. National Guard members are now in Washington, D.C., as the Trump administration attempts to combat crime. The president cited a public safety emergency after an assault on a former Department of Government Efficiency worker. Control of the police department extends for up to 30 days. Any request to control it for longer must be passed into law. Now, President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized what he describes as a surge in violent crime in the state's capital. But overall crime numbers this year are lower than last year. Advocates worry that the crackdown will put people who are homeless behind bars. My next guest says that these actions will not be effective in reducing homelessness. Donald Whitehead is the executive director of the National Coalition for the Homeless, and he's joining us today from Washington, D.C. Mr. Whitehead, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Whitehead, I wonder if we could begin, sir, with what you're actually seeing on the streets of Washington today. Is the National Guard's presence visible? Is it changing the mood of the city at all?
I think it is changing the mood of the city, and thank you for that question. Certainly it is visible. We saw a tremendous uptick in presence of law enforcement last night, and tonight, we're actually seeing a few more. So it is visible. Residents are terrified. Certainly those that are homeless are terrified, and regular citizens are both terrified and annoyed.
When you say that you're seeing them carry out law enforcement, what exactly does that mean? Because that doesn't sound terrifying. What are the actions that they're taking that are terrifying?
So last night, some of the observers that we work with were out in a community that was heavily Hispanic, and there was a presence that was beyond anything people have seen before. So dozens of police cars from the Metropolitan Police Department. There were ICE agents, there were National Guards, and there were other members of law enforcement in the district. So just the overwhelming presence is not something that DC residents are accustomed to.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about specifically members of the community who are homeless and the potential threat the presence of the National Guard is having on them. What have you been observing, and what do you worry about?
So we've observed that people have been moved out of encampments. And this is not new. That's been going on for some time. The Park Service, the National Park Service, has raided encampments for the last couple of years. Now, what we're seeing today is that raiding of encampments has actually ramped up quite a bit. So what used to take hours is taking a lot shorter time. And it also involves people who are not trained in how to interact with people with mental health or substance abuse issues. So we've seen in other communities this kind of action result in all kinds of terrible things, up to and including death.
So, Mr. Whitehead, you and I both know that there are residents of Washington, D.C. who are going to turn around and say, listen, crime is a problem. I don't feel safe on these streets. Sometimes it is people who are homeless that might be posing a threat. Sometimes it is those who are abusing substances that pose a threat. What, to your mind, is the accurate way of managing this problem?
I would say that overwhelmingly, and it's not about people's feelings, it's about what actually is happening. We know that people experiencing homelessness and people with mental health issues are far more likely to be victims than to create crimes. So people are more opposed to their presence than they are the actual crimes that happen on the street. And I think part of what the president and other people have done is villainized people experiencing homelessness. These are your neighbors, they're sisters, brothers, fathers, and daughters. They're not demons, or they're not people who people need to be afraid of. They're people who are experiencing economic difficulties. They are not people that should be feared in any way.
What is your biggest fear now that the National Guard is on the ground in your city?
Well, my biggest fear is that this actually undermines really important work that has been done. The DC homeless population actually decreased this year and went down by 9%. And that was because there were coordinated services using best practices that are fact-based, that are evidence-based, that really get to what people need when it comes to homelessness. Their housing options, that's what solves homelessness. Criminalizing people, threatening people does nothing to change homelessness. You can fine them, you can jail them, you can arrest them, but once they leave those institutions, they're still homeless. So you haven't done anything to solve the problem. So I think this will actually have a detrimental effect on homeless services in the District of Columbia.
Donald Whitehead, really great to speak with you this evening, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for covering this story.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure.